The NCAA has a brand new investigation that will take them 10 years to resolve, and it involves Scott Frost, the head coach of the University of Nebraska. The Big 12 has finally come down to an agreement on what they want to do as far as their COVID-19 protocols as it involves forfeitures. Aaron Rodgers, could he finally be on his farewell tour out of Green Bay? We'll be discussing all this and so much more right here on the Undefined Blitz.
35 down the sidelines to the 40, makes a move to the 45, the 50, he's to the 40, he could go, he's to the 25, the 20, they dive at him, they miss him, he's in the end zone, touchdown!
Throws off his back foot, wide open man in the end zone, leaping grab, touchdown!
Launches the throw down toward the goal line, going up, ball tipped in the air, caught, touchdown!
Reverses his field, got a block from Pittman, going deep, got a man in the end zone, touchdown!
It's a man's game tonight now, you know that. Everybody watching tonight.
And now it's the Undefined Blitz with Chad and JC.
And welcome, everybody, once again to the Undefined Blitz right here on UndefinedRadio.com, the Undefined Radio podcast. We appreciate you guys tuning in. This is episode 3 of the Undefined Blitz as we get closer and closer to the start of the regular season in the NFL. We get closer and closer to the start of week 0 in college football. High school football starts this Friday night, especially right here on UndefinedRadio.com. All you have to do is go to UndefinedRadio.com, download the free Undefined Radio app. And we've got a couple of high schools that are new. This is a new thing for us, broadcasting high school football. Plus, we'll have a high school football after show, overtime show, run all the schools down here in the state of Mississippi where we're at. And we're going to expand this over the next year or so. But if you like football, you just want to talk football and hear about football, Undefined Radio has you covered, and we're about to get you covered with some hot news coming off of this past week, especially these last few days. There's a lot of things to talk about, so we're going to try to hit them all, as you might have heard in the cold open and what we're kind of doing here. So let's kind of start it off with this Nebraska announcement.
Right on. So Nebraska announced that the NCAA is looking into its football program after a report said that Cornhusker staff improperly used analysts and consultants with the knowledge of Coach Scott Frost, and even moved workouts off campus last year when such activities were banned during the pandemic. So Nebraska came out and said, excuse me, we just wanted to acknowledge that there is an NCAA investigation that is currently engaged with our athletic department and our football program specifically. Now, this is according to athletic director Trev Alberts. He went on to say, we want you to know that we have complied 100% with the NCAA and have been very collaborative with our approach with them with all of this investigation. We will continue to do whatever the NCAA asks us to do. Our coaches, including Coach Frost, have done a great job and have been very accessible working with the NCAA as we work through these investigations. However, they couldn't really deny it because of the fact that the Action Network has reported that Nebraska has quote-unquote significant video footage confirming that practice violations occurred in the presence of Coach Frost and other assistants.
But I'm kind of curious as to what exactly those transgressions are, right? I mean, exactly what were they doing? What were they caught doing that was so egregious?
Well,
I mean,
they improperly used analysts and consultants
which,
with the knowledge of the head coach.
Sure, I
and
guess.
then during the pandemic, when you weren't allowed to really be, touching each other at all.
So improper touching.
They were having full contact practices, which were activities banned during the pandemic by the NCAA that everyone had to comply with, not just Nebraska. And to make it worse, they were dumb enough to film it.
Well, this is the problem, right? Again, and, whatever. It's like, I love how they treat this as a true crime. We caught them. We caught them using analysts and consultants. How dare you? Can't do it. Don't do it. It's a criminal offense. We have to bury your program for the next 37 years because you did such a heinous act.
Well, they're doing a great job of burying themselves.
We have heinous touching. Improper touching. Can't do it. Pandemic says you can't touch each other, in a very physical sport, but we can't do it because Rona is very, it'll get you in practice when you're doing it, except on a real football field when you're playing other teams. Then you can't do it. The NCAA is a joke. They have been. They always will be. There's nothing you're going to say change my mind. And I get there's, this is the same rules that everybody has to go by. Nebraska's fault. The problem is that they filmed it. Because I guarantee you're probably not the only ones doing it. They're the ones that got caught because they were stupid enough to film it. And again, I don't know. It's not. You weren't paying players. You weren't doing this and that. You can call this whatever you want to. I'm so sick of the NCAA itself as an entity, not college football, but the NCAA specifically. And I think and Nebraska can go ahead and do whatever they think they're going to do with this and comply as much as they want to. They still getting it.
Oh, yeah, they're always going to get it because the NCAA has to come out on top.
That's right.
Now, with them actually complying and being forthright about it, they're going to get off a little lighter than what they normally would have.
Exactly.
But, I mean, who knows? Thing is, with the NCAA, they opened up a new investigative committee several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago now. And they finally just recently resolved their very first case that they had after about 5 years. Scott Frost right now, for those of you who don't know, he's 12-20 as head coach of the Nebraska Cornhuskers.
That's right.
If they don't do well this year, he's going to be gone. This coaching staff's going to be gone.
That's
in a few
right.
years, these students will all be gone. And then there will be a new regime that's in place when the NCAA Infractions Committee, that's what they're called, finally comes down on them.
Exactly. So there you go. Speaking of the Rona, let's talk about this whole Big 12 thing. Because they had a conference on Tuesday, and they made this little announcement right here. So if you don't have enough teams to compete in your game because of COVID-19
Enough
restrictions.
players to compete.
Yeah, enough players. So if you don't have enough players to complete in your game, then you have to forfeit automatically. You can't postpone the game. We kind of touched on this a few weeks ago, really, too.
Yeah.
But basically, Big 12 just came out and said that this is what we're doing. If one of our teams doesn't have enough players, they forfeit that game.
Because we were talking about that as it pertained to the NFL a few weeks ago.
Exactly.
But now this is the first, one of the few college football conferences that have announced it. They said for 4 conference games, it will be handled as if a game has been played. The team that forfeits will be credited with a loss and the opponent with a win. The forfeit can be declared at any point before a game is completed. If both teams are unable to play, the game would be declared a no contest. Big 12 Commissioner Bob Bowlesby said the discretion to deem a game a no contest, quote-unquote, if extraordinary circumstances warrant. But the thing you got to keep in mind is college teams have like 85 to 95
There's
players
a lot
on
of
them.
people.
You'll be hard-pressed to not find enough guys to play a game.
Yeah, you're talking about more than 3/4 of your team has to be out.
Right.
Really, for that to happen. It's a lot different than NFL where that number has to – it doesn't take many.
If you have 25 healthy bodies, you can play a college football game.
That's right.
Or any football game.
Or any football game.
Now, if you get any injuries, then you're going to be in a bad spot.
Some people doing double duty.
Then you might have to forfeit.
So, that's – I don't know. Whatever.
But
whatever with these guys.
But, at least they've come out and they've established a clear guideline and policy that they're going to go. No one has to guess about it.
No.
Like, this is what it's going to be.
No, that's
if
true.
If you can't field a team, like, you are going to have to forfeit that game. It's going to go as a loss on your record because you all chose to not do the things that can prevent that from happening. We saw a lot of college football games got canceled last year.
Yep.
That's TV revenue loss that the conferences don't want, that the schools don't want, and that the NCAA doesn't want. All those each of those levels, from the individual institutions to the conference level to the NCAA level, they want that TV revenue. But if there's games being canceled and those games are not being filmed and aired, then they don't get it. They miss out on that.
But that's also a result of not understanding the virus that swept the world. It's a global pandemic at the time. And everybody's being super cautious and hyper cautious about what should we do and what should we not do because there's so much conflicting information. which is still kind of the case. Like with if you're talking about the vaccine, because that's the big thing right now, right? Where you're pitting one person against the other, saying, "Well, it's my right to do it, and that's fine. It's your right." But also, if you don't do and take this vaccine, then you can't play or you can't work or whatever the case may be.
Well, Jesus, I regret writing this show. I didn't know we were turning into politics.
But it's not. But this has everything to do with football and sports and how we watch it, because we're seeing it right now at the high school level. Like Sal Panola just had their first 3 games of the season canceled.
Are they taking losses?
No, they're not doing it. They're just forfeiting. And we don't. They may be rescheduled. We're not even sure right now. All that they have said was that, hey, we're gonna go ahead and just say we're not playing these first 3 games. We don't know if they're rescheduled. Don't know what they are. And you see several schools doing that because of the uptick in COVID cases right now, right in the state of Mississippi.
Especially in the state of Mississippi.
So and you see a lot of that stuff, but you see this Delta variant taking off in a lot of places, which, again, and we're talking about people doing the right thing when nobody really knows what the right thing is. You can tell somebody to get the vaccine that isn't and have it done. What are you going to do? I mean, I know 2 high schools that I know of have quarantined their entire program before they get back to school. But then once you get to school and it starts again, this is the situation we're living in right now. So when you're dealing with like what we're talking about with the Big 12, it could be easy for something to happen, and no matter what these guys do, could still come in contact with it because you're within, like I saw one school's doing, like if you're within 3 feet, then you have to be quarantined along with the person who tested positive for the Rona, right? And some are saying, well, 6 feet, you're fine, but within 3 feet, you're not.
And some schools are saying you have to have proof of vaccination before you are even allowed back on campus.
So there's a lot of, that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of inconsistency and a lot of different things. But the Big 12 is saying for their conference, this is what we're going to do.
Each state is handling it at the state level.
Well, and everybody's handling it different. It's ridiculous because nobody knows exactly what they should do and what the best foot forward is. So you see guys like the Big 12 says, all right, this is how we're going to handle it. This is what we're going to do. And I don't think there's any danger because, like you said, there are so many players on that team. 85. The NFL just trimmed the roster to 85. That's what college rosters have. All right, so there's so many people on these teams. I don't think that you're going to see it unless some freak thing really happens and just tears through a program. It's probably going to be fine. This sounds like it's going to be one of those things where, hey, look, in case it happens, we're just letting you know your team is done. So take all the precautionary measures you can to ensure this doesn't happen. And then, if it happens, it happens, and we'll see it. I don't think we'll see it, but they're putting it out there like if it does, then here we go. So what about this, who is that, Kayvon Tebow?
It is Kayvon Tebow, the potential #1 overall pick in the 2022 NFL Draft. He has entered into a marketing deal with United Airlines, which will provide special direct flights from Eugene, Oregon to select Ducks away games this season. Of course, for those of you who don't know about Kayvon, he is a defensive end at the University of Oregon. He talked about partnering up with United Airlines. He said it was a no-brainer for him that United Airlines is a premium brand with the same core values that he has. Thibodeau, he said that in a statement to ESPN through a representative. He said, I look forward to a long-standing relationship with United. You can tell that entire statement was carefully crafted because
same thing.
No college football player or college student, for that matter, speaks that way.
Nobody does. And United Airlines has the same core values I do.
Right.
Okay. What are those, by the way?
That you like to pat people down at security and, make them
That's right.
fly long distances, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what those values
kick
be.
families off the plane if the baby is too loud and crying.
Now, this partnership and this program that they're doing, it will begin with multiple direct flights from Eugene, Oregon to Columbus, Ohio, starting on September 9th, which is for Oregon's game at Ohio State on September 11th. Return flights from Columbus to Eugene will be available after the game and on the following 2 days. So this is a cool little deal that they have cooked up between United Airlines and the University of Oregon, really, to help get those fans out there. Don't have to worry about layovers and connecting flights. You can just hop right on, fly to Columbus after the game, hop back on a plane, and fly on back.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's not, it's a good deal. And especially for him with this NIL thing. I mean, it's a really good deal for him. I mean, so making your money before you ever get there, bud.
What are the financials on this thing? That's what I'm wondering.
Well, it's United Airlines. So, I mean, that's kind of the question.
Yeah, I mean,
how much you
airline.
getting out of that thing?
Because it's got to be a pretty penny, especially for him to be the face of it. But, hey, I mean, if they were going to team up with someone, the potential #1 overall pick, that's the best way to go. Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it is. So ESPN 300 wide receiver Luther Burden decommitted from Oklahoma on Tuesday.
And he's not the first one to do so here lately.
I wonder what's going on with Oklahoma.
He had been committed to the Sooners since October of last year, that is. Burden is the third ESPN 300 wide receiver to decommit from Oklahoma in this 2022 cycle, along with Talon Shetron, the number 26 prospect, who flipped to Oklahoma State, actually, and Jordan Hudson, who is ranked number 43, and he committed to SMU. Burden is a 6'1", 195-pound wide receiver out of East St. Louis High School in East St. Louis, Illinois, and he is the number 2 ranked receiver overall. Other schools have continued to recruit Burden, while he decommitted from Oklahoma, the Sooners will still be in consideration, along with schools such as Georgia and Missouri.
So he just ain't made up his mind where he wants to go.
Right.
He's like, you know what? I'm not going to fully commit yet.
If I'm not
sure.
mistaken, I believe Oklahoma did get the number 1 overall wide receiver, but they also got the top 2 of ESPN 300 running backs, and I want to say a linebacker in the ESPN 300. Look, Oklahoma, I don't know if people have noticed over the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, but when it comes to quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers, Oklahoma's not hurting for it. The guys that are decommitting are probably decommitting because they know they're probably going to be buried on the depth chart for a little bit.
Yeah, well,
going to other schools where they know that they can play now.
And you see that a lot, too. They start looking around. I mean, because especially when you're young and you're looking at committing to these big programs, and then you really start looking and going, okay, wait a second. There's a lot of talent at the position I play.
Oh, absolutely.
What is my playing time going to be, and how can I get on a team that's going to, first of all, it's still a great program, but secondly, and maybe most importantly, I'll have eyes on me to see what my skill set is.
Especially in a world of, the NIL deal.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
The more eyes you can have on you, the better, because it increases the viability of your brand, and you can start, reaching those deals with companies a lot quicker that way. Oh, speaking of players and schools and companies and NIL deals and things, did you see what happened at, I want to say it was BYU?
I don't think so.
So there's a company, I forget which company it is. I saw this the other day, and I forgot to write about it for the show, but they came out and told BYU that for all 36 walk-ons that are on their team, they're completely paying for their school.
Oh, wow.
So they won't be officially on scholarship, but they'll essentially be on scholarship. Those kids don't have to come out of pocket to pay for school anymore.
That's pretty good. That's a good thing.
I wish I could remember the company. I'll look that up and see if I can find out who it was.
Yeah, that's a pretty good deal. Good Lord. So we still got some stuff going on there in Rodgers. Look, this offseason has been chaotic for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers, the organization, for the Packers fans, everybody, especially with everything that's going on. But Rodgers came out and made it clear that he doesn't want a farewell tour. He just wants to, and let's see if I can find that quote. He says, I don't know what's going to happen after the season, but I'm going to enjoy it with the right perspective for sure and not look at it as I'm getting through this. I'm going to enjoy the hell out of all of it. Which means Aaron Rodgers is definitely looking for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow after the season ends. Whether it's still with Green Bay or whether it's somewhere else, my money's on somewhere else. He says he wants to stay in Green Bay, but we know if that front office doesn't change, Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Packer next season. Not going to happen.
No, but I think that front office will cave to whatever Aaron wants ultimately.
I think if the guy wants to keep his job, they will. That's what I think.
If the front office guy wants to keep his job.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. That's what happened. But it's going to take that. Speaking of that,
so I found that school or that company. It was called Built Brands. So Built Brands, this is the ones that reached the deal with BYU. they're a Utah-based company that makes protein snacks. And so they will give all 123 members of the Cougars football team the opportunity to be paid to promote its products. So scholarship players can earn $1,000 for walk-ons or players who are not on athletic scholarship, for those of you who don't know. The payment can be equivalent to the cost of a year's tuition at BYU, which ranges from about $3,000 to $6,000 per semester. So they're not outright paying for their tuition, but if these guys will advertise their brand, they'll go ahead and cover that tuition.
Pretty smart. I'd go for dudes. Y'all better be out there learning how to do self-promotion.
Yeah, so this is wild in a way because we haven't seen any company reach a deal with an entire program.
Yeah.
Like this is happening with BYU right now. And this might, this could definitely test the limits
Of the NIL?
Of the NIL thing and how far the NCAA is willing to let it go. Because so far the NCAA has taken a hands-off and permissive approach to the NIL, which is allowing schools and states that don't have these NIL laws to set their own policies. And Utah doesn't have a law for NIL.
That's right.
But the NCAA still does not allow NIL payments to be used as recruiting inducements or pay for play. So if you're a player on the outside looking in, you're like, hey, BYU's offered me, and yeah, I could go here and there and make some money and whatever, but I can go here and they'll pay me to play, essentially. Mm-hmm. They'll pay me to endorse their product, yeah, but I can still do deals everywhere else. I can get on the field now and play, and could end up giving BYU a strong leg up.
It's possible. Speaking of strong legs up, though, Tyrann Mathieu. Tyrann Mathieu, big-time safety. His contract's coming up. And
he's getting a little older now.
He is.
You got to remember, he still plays great, but he's getting...
Well, so he's looking for that next big contract, right? But he may have to just wait on that, according to General Manager Brett Beach. He says they'd like to extend Matthew's contract beyond the season. But timing just isn't right for that to happen soon. And here's the reason why. So, and I'll give you his quote. His quote is, the landscape is super tricky. We're at a $30 million salary cap deficit from what we thought, and next year it's $15 million. Right now, some things are out of our control just because of the cap reductions this year and next year. If you look at our books for next year, we're going to be over by a bunch. Right now, we're counting Orlando Brown, on a franchise tag, but we think he's going to play well, and we're going to extend him, and that opens up space. Restructuring with other players opens up space. Some guys moving on will open up space. And this is the tricky part about what's happened, again, with the Rona period and what we went through, and how because we didn't have fans, it reduced the salary cap and what we thought what the salary cap was going to be versus what it actually is right now.
Yeah, and then when you start factoring in these players, their contracts for this season, next season they escalate or however it might be. Some contracts will come off the book because contracts expiring and whatnot, but that still leaves the Kansas City Chiefs at $15 million over just going into next season.
Oh yeah,
you think you've got to be at least positive 10 over really to sign your draft picks?
Yep.
So Kansas City is in an unenviable spot.
Yes, they are.
Because they're paying Patrick Mahomes $500 million over the next 9 seasons,
something like that. It's a lot of monies.
They've got a lot of big deals, but that's what happens. We see that time and time again, though. When teams win the Super Bowl, they dole out big contracts to key players whose contracts are either up right then or they want to go ahead and extend and get them locked up now. But it creates salary cap issues in the not too distant future, and then you see those teams maybe fall apart.
Well,
in most cases, you do see them fall apart. This
is
the case where Kansas City, this might be the last good run that Kansas City has this season.
Well, remember Seattle. All right, you had Russell Wilson playing on his rookie deal.
Right.
Wasn't counting a lot of money against the salary cap. We said way back then, that's all good and fine right now, but once that's over and they have to sign him to a big deal, that whole landscape of that team changes.
Because now all of a sudden there wasn't money for the defense.
That's right. They'll be a good team, but they won't be great because they can't afford all those pieces. You have too many superstars on that team.
Right.
Some people are going to get paid. Some people are not.
Now, they also had some bad luck. I mean, You couldn't have foreseen the injury issues with Cam Chancellor's neck.
Oh, I mean, definitely not.
Which kind of did them in there. Earl Thomas, I don't know if he suffered a bunch of concussions or what, but we all know his troubles have been well documented. Richard Sherman only got out of Seattle just because he was getting older.
Mm-hmm.
And, if it weren't for that, he probably would have stayed there. Bobby Wagner was really the only key piece of that defense. Oh, KJ Wright.
Yeah.
Bobby Wagner and KJ Wright both got paid, both played the linebacker position. They got paid and they stuck around in Seattle longer than anyone else in that defense. And remember, when Seattle had that Super Bowl win, it was because of that defense.
Absolutely.
It was that defense and that running game. I'm not saying that Russell Wilson was bad, but Russell Wilson wasn't just lighting it up. He'd make great plays when he had to.
That's right.
But he wasn't just dropping mind-blowing numbers on you.
But again, this is the kind of thing that happens when you can load up on all that other talent where a lot of money normally goes to that quarterback position. Yep. And then when we see the quarterback start to get paid, we said this with Kansas City.
You can't eat up, 20, 30% of the salary cap with one player.
Yeah.
You just can't do it and be viable year in and year out.
That's right. And when you do, this is the kind of thing that happens.
Because there's 52 other guys that are on the active roster that have to get paid.
Yeah. And so when you're committing those kind of resources to one or two individuals, the rest of the team suffers. Why do you think Tom Brady is so good for so long on such good teams? Tom Brady does not try to break the bank ever.
He has taken pay cut after pay cut after pay cut, restructured his deal over and over and over again to pay key guys to either come in from free agency or to keep the guys that they have, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Keep them happy and content and keep them there in Foxborough.
That's it.
When he was with the Patriots.
And he's doing the same thing in Tampa Bay. Same thing. He's not asking for an exorbitant amount of money to go in there and play.
Right.
He wants the tools around him to keep winning. Tom Brady's got all the money. He's got tons of money, endorsement deals, all these things. He can look. This dude is about
Tom
winning.
Brady could have so much more money though. That's the thing to think about. Is like he could have, especially if he had started playing now.
Yes.
Like we just saw Josh Allen got a 6-year, $260 million extension or whatever it was. This current Josh Allen contract is worth more money than Tom Brady has made in his career.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
And that's over a 6-year stretch, and Tom Brady is entering his 22nd season.
And that's the money he's made in the NFL.
Yeah. I'm talking purely
Just
contract
talk
money.
about contract money in the NFL. Which, Tom Brady made more than the previous quarterbacks generation before him. I mean, it cycles like that. I mean, the reason these quarterbacks are making so much more because the money is more.
But you can't feel bad for Tom Brady. I mean, his wife is the highest grossing, supermodel of all time. So,
but the biggest thing
they're not hurting.
But Tom Brady doesn't. But that's the difference though. Tom Brady could go out and get more money. He chooses to go out and win football games. He chooses to bring home championships. Because he knows he ain't going to be judged by his bank account. He's going to be judged by the championships that he wins.
And besides last season, he's never had that much talent to throw to.
Oh,
He's
exactly.
He had Randy Moss for a time.
At the tail end of Randy's career.
And then he had Gronk.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never had a good tight end with at least 2 good wide receivers and a good running back at the same time.
Exactly.
He's had 1, maybe 2 of those 4 pieces until last season. Last season he had an embarrassment of riches between Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette, Gronk, absolutely loaded. So
yeah,
you can't argue that Tom Brady has. Like the team bought his rings. Like you can't say that in Foxborough.
Huh.
They had good defenses, and Tom Brady made the best out of what he had there.
That's right.
Now in Tampa Bay, a lot of that talent was already there. They brought in some pieces, but that's because they brought in Tom Brady, and they're willing to do whatever it took to have Tom Brady get them to a championship.
And again, but they didn't get themselves into cap trouble.
Right, because they were able to bring back everybody.
That's right,
which is never done.
And this is the difference. This is why when you got somebody like Tom Brady, you want players on your team who are willing to do whatever it takes to win.
But it raises the question though, as we get back to Tyrann Mathieu here. Where do we see Tyrann Mathieu finish his career? You know, does
I don't know.
Does he want to go back to Arizona, join Buda Baker, and form a devastating little safety tandem out there? You know, Dallas has more safeties now than they've ever had, but you don't feel great about hardly any of them. So could Tyrann Mathieu go there? Or does Tyrann Mathieu want to go home to Louisiana, play with the Saints in that secondary?
I think I don't know. I mean, he's probably going to want to go to where he can get a good paycheck.
I think at the juncture of his career he's at, too, he's going to want to go to someplace where they can be competing for a championship.
Maybe it depends on if that's what Tyrann Mathieu wants, and that's what I'm saying.
That's the whole reason he went to Kansas City.
That's the question
to begin with.
Oh, no doubt.
Because when he left Houston was good. They just weren't great.
Mm-hmm. But he has a championship
but they were
ring now.
They were trending up, and then he saw Kansas City, and Kansas City was like, "Hey, like we're in this thing right now. Come play with us, and we're gonna go win one." And he did, and they did.
But that's what I'm saying, though. He's got a championship ring now. Now is it more about another championship ring, or is it about, okay, let me make as much money as I can right here on the downside of my career and see what I can bank, and I'll go to any team that's willing to pay me a price to do it. Again, it's all on that individual.
I don't think you see Tyrann Mathieu is not that dude.
We're going to find out after this season.
If you go back and you look at him in college, like he made some knucklehead things, but this dude loves the game of football. He loves playing. He loves competing at the highest level. I think that dude, he's not going to want to go and take a deal with like Jacksonville just to be in the NFL. That dude can be in the NFL on literally any other team. So why not go to one? Hey, if Aaron Rodgers is back in Green Bay, why not go up to Green Bay? You got a great young corner in Jair Alexander up there. They did just trade Josh Jackson out, so that kind of hurts the prospects a little bit. However, there's enough talent in Green Bay, especially at their linebackers with the two Smiths that they have. I think Preston and Zadarius.
Yeah.
That could be a great little landing spot for him as well.
Oh, I don't disagree, but again, it's all going to be about what is his outlook after this season. Is it about chasing that championship, or is it about saying, I've got a championship, let me just set up the rest of my life and see what are my goals after football, what do I want to do? And I think, that's the difference when you're on the downside of a career versus the upstart of your career where winning and the passion of the game and all that is everything, and versus the downside where you're thinking, all right, I just want to bank some money, or you know what, I've got all the money I need. Let me go to some place where I can just be on a winning team that I know is close and do it. So, and like I said, I think we're going to find that out after the end of this season. What is that really going to be about? And from Kansas City side, too, they're strapped for cash. What are they going to do here as far as cap space goes? See what happens with that. I think it's going to be a big deal. Another big deal is with the Bears. The Bears. Chicago Bears rookie.
Well, they are Chicago's Bears.
Offensive tackle Tevin Jenkins will undergo back surgery on Wednesday. Coach Matt Nagy announced. That's not good.
No, he was, because the Bears traded up to draft him 39th overall in the second round, which everyone thought he was going first round.
Yeah.
Everyone thought he could possibly go top 10.
That's right.
So Tevin Jenkins falling to the second round was a blessing for the Bears, but now he's out with the back injury. Nagy did say it's a common procedure. It's going to be done locally. He said, we tried to hope to avoid surgery with him, and we tried several treatments, but the goal is to get him back this season. Now, Adam Schefter has heard from sources that the Bears hope Jenkins can make it back in November, but there's a real chance that his season's over. I mean, backs they're rough, and they typically don't get better. So especially for him to have this so early in his season is awful. Now, and Jenkins was tabbed to be Chicago's starting left tackle this season, but the Oklahoma State product has been sidelined with a bad back since camp opened in late July.
Yeah, I think that's why they're going to go ahead and do surgery and make sure that back gets healed up. And
just have him ready to go for next year.
And they hope he can get back, and if he does, that's great. Look, we got a 17-game season now. November is only, honestly, a little over 2 months into the season. And so we still half a season to go. If depending on how serious that procedure is, and I mean by how invasive it's going to be and how serious it is, will determine actually whether or not he comes back. We know one person who won't be back, though. Tim Tebow is cut from the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, and I don't think
hated
anyone's
that.
surprised.
Oh, we're not
though.
surprised. We knew this was going to happen a while back, but it still sucks.
He's
I was rooting
a
for Tebow.
great human being.
Yeah.
You know, great teammate, great leader.
Tebow's
but
jacked.
he's a god awful tight end. He's bad. Every clip I have watched of him, outside of one touchdown catch he made in practice, every clip I've seen of Tim Tebow has made me physically cringe when I watch him play the tight end position.
Well, you're talking about going from quarterback to tight end, a position he's never played, and trying to pick it up. And really, my whole thing with Tim Tebow is just that. Sounds like an earthquake going on right here, doesn't it? Freaking trains and crap going around. But yeah, so, and I think that's kind of the worst thing right there is that, or to me, it's actually the best thing about Tim Tebow is the fact that, look, this dude's trying to get back there at 30 plus years old, trying to get in there and play a position he has never played before, and in great shape and willing to go out there and give it his best. The worst part about it was everybody saying, hey, look, this dude's out there taking a position from somebody else. I'm like, dude, everybody's taking a position from somebody else on a football team. That's what you do.
But I think this was the greatest ploy, though, that Urban Meyer could have possibly made.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because everyone knows his love for Tim.
Yes.
You know, like they go back to Urban Meyer's time at Florida. They won, 2 national championships together. Urban Meyer loves Tim Tebow. He is a Tim Tebow guy. Tim Tebow is an Urban Meyer guy.
Yes.
Through and through.
Yes.
And that's the reason he brought him in. But when you bring in Tim Tebow, Urban Meyer understands that leadership, that gusto, that vibrato, that want to, that desire, that fire that Tim Tebow has rubs off on your teammates.
It really does.
All the time. But then also by Urban Meyer cutting Tim Tebow, that reiterates to everyone that even though Urban Meyer loves Tim Tebow, at the end of the day, this is still a business.
Yeah, I wonder how much merch he sold.
Who, Tebow?
How many of them Tim Tebow jerseys are floating around out there?
Oh, there's probably
There's gotta be
a
ton of
good
them.
many. People just buying them on principle.
And I heard, people have been talking about this and debating the fact that, man, those fans just got screwed. But did they? Did they? I don't think that they did. I mean,
Like, no one made you buy a Tim Tebow
no.
jersey.
And
first
of
and
all,
foremost.
I
Let's
don't
get
think
that.
that's a bad thing to own a Jacksonville Jaguar Tim Tebow jersey, especially if you're a Jacksonville Jaguar fan.
I don't know if my options are Tim Tebow or Trevor Lawrence. I'm probably going to roll with Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, but that's not the point, though. The point, reason they bought Tim Tebow jerseys were because they love Tim Tebow. It's like he's from that area. He's part of that brand down there. Really.
He's a
So
Florida
why not?
guy.
So it makes sense. There's no reason not to, and I don't think it's as big a deal as some of these people are making it out to be. The fans are getting screwed. No, they're not. There was never a guarantee he was going to make it. And like you said, no one made you buy the jersey. I would have bought one anyway. If I was that big of a fan of Tim Tebow and I was excited about him playing for my team, whether or not he made the team, that would not upset me because he's obviously, you all knew going in that was the highest probabilities for him to be cut.
Yeah. Well, speaking of your team, as bad as their backup quarterback situation looks, why not bring in Tim Tebow at this point?
Oh, yeah. No, thank you.
To be the backup quarterback?
If he was backup quarterback, it wouldn't hurt my feelings. I know the ball's not getting thrown more than 5 yards and looking like a duck flying through there. I get that. Yeah, a dead duck.
And then if he decides to run with it, he's a tank.
Now, if he's running with the ball, Tim Tebow's going to get in there. I ain't worried about that part of it.
I don't. You can bring him at this point in his career. You can bring him in. Everyone understands he's not starting. But if something happens to your quarterback, boom, you've got a leader, a guy that's played the position, won a playoff game even.
Look, you might as well get used to it. Gilbert Gottfried's going to be our backup quarterback. That's just what it is.
Well, I'm not worried about Gilbert
That's
Gottfried. It's
what
the
it
guy.
is.
It's the guys behind him I'm worried about.
Well, Danuch is probably going to be the third string guy too. Is what I'm thinking. Did you see Hard Knocks last night, episode 2?
Yeah, I watched it earlier today actually.
Yeah, it's pretty good stuff. I enjoyed it. I just enjoyed it.
I
love
didn't
all
like
the
this
little
episode as
things.
much.
I did. I enjoyed it.
I thought this was like it's like that weird episode of your favorite TV show where you're watching it and they don't really, nothing happens to really progress any kind of story. It's just like, here's some character development.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
that's what the episode felt like.
I get why you say that, but honestly, I thought there was a lot to do there. Especially we got to see Terrell Basham, his personality come out, which is great. That dude was great. I hate that he got hurt and had to leave early.
Specifically to their defensive line
so,
coach.
Yeah. And then, dude, that was funny. And then, of course, is it Azur Kamara?
Yeah, Zero Kamara.
Dude, that was great, but that was inspirational.
Yeah, coming
That
from
was
the Ivory
so well
Coast,
done.
they settled in Ghana before eventually settling in Arizona.
And then you look at him playing against Arizona, and this dude's just digging in there and should have had probably the game-winning
play,
sack strip, right there at the end of it, which would have been huge.
I loved his mom's energy, man.
Oh, his mom was great.
His
His mom was great.
She was just so excited to see her son and see him pursuing his dreams and what he loves and doing that. And
The little girl said, "Why are you smiling so much?" "That's my baby."
yeah, like,
I'm
that's
like,
it.
That's
you
my
know?
boy. I'm like, I love that. That was great. So, he's on the bottom of the depth chart for defensive
Right.
ends for the Cowboys, and
Well, it's because he's 235 pounds
yeah.
as a defensive end.
But this he's ripped. He's
He's
not
big.
thick, right? If you
he's
call it a
big.
230-pound man, small,
Yeah.
but for defensive ends,
No.
you get it.
Because I looked at him, I was like, "You sure he's only 235? Because he's massive.
Yeah, oh yeah. But he was ripping.
He's just not a 285-pound defensive
No.
end."
But I love how he dips and he moves.
But
I thought he'd move
I think
pretty
he's
great.
an outside linebacker.
I
Is
think
what
he
he
is,
is.
too. I
He's a
think he is, too.
3-4 outside linebacker.
Well, and he even has that linebacker type number too. And at first I thought that's what they were doing. It's like, okay, they're using him as an edge rusher a lot too, and he can get in there
Because everything I've seen depth chart wise has him even listed
as a linebacker.
as a linebacker.
It'll be. I think he may end up on practice squad after the cuts and stuff. It looks like is what I'm thinking might happen there. I hope so. I would hate for him just to be out of the league, especially when you. I don't think anybody really knew his story, but you watched Hard Knocks, you learned real quick, like, oh, wow, that is interesting. More than interesting, you're rooting for the guy now. It's like, man, this is crazy.
And then you get to see, we got to see more of Ben DiNucci in this episode.
Oh, we did. Him playing chess with
some of his
Micah Parsons
successes.
was great, man. That was
Yeah,
so
well,
much fun.
Like, Amari Cooper is the unquestioned king of chess for the Cowboys.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, that's been his thing for years. But then Micah, of course, knew that Coop played. So when Micah got drafted, he came in, like, challenging Amari Cooper all the time to chess games. And he's, thinks that he's the top dog when it comes to chess. And then you get to see Ben DiNucci beat him.
I swear. I swear. I mean, that was great. But that was something else. This is what I love about Hard Knocks. Because I know you have not been a Ben DiNucci fan at all.
He has given me no reason to.
That is putting it lightly, which I thought he did pretty well in that Arizona game. But
meaningless preseason.
I mean, well, it's not meaningless for those guys though. It ain't meaningless for any of those guys. It's super important.
To his credit, he did score the first touchdown. Well, he didn't score it. He threw the first touchdown pass or first touchdown of this Cowboys preseason.
Yeah, had a couple of pretty good scrambles. But what I liked about Hard Knocks is you get to see a lot of these guys. Size of these guys we don't normally get to see.
Right.
All right, these actual human beings that are in there, and you seeing how they interact with each other and all of those things. Like when Dak is talking to them about their, you need a hoodie or something.
Right,
Over there.
about a
Even
swag.
the coaches are getting there with the swag and talking
Kellen
about
Moore. When Kellen Moore's talking trash about your swag,
I swear.
like,
You know
yeah,
something's
you
up.
need to step it up.
You got to do something.
But Ben DiNucci,
It was fun.
He tripped me out because he said when Dak was calling him out on the swag, he's like, you need a sleeve or something.
Mm-hmm.
Ben DiNucci said, well, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Dude,
I was like, bro, I'm not even just talking about your swag, but your game too. It could all use some improvement.
Yeah,
So let's maybe pump the brakes on using that expression ever again.
And look, that dude's got good zip, great arm strength. I mean, he can throw the ball from any angle too with accuracy. It's just, I think a lot of his is confidence and decision making is really what it comes down to. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see these cuts coming. But it's that time of the show where we have to give out some awards for the week.
Dun, dun, dun.
We got the Drizzler Award and the Big Kahuna Award. All right, JC, who's your Drizzler Award going to?
So this week, my Drizzler Award goes to Tim Tebow. I know he's a great guy. He's a wonderful human being. But like I said earlier, he is a subpar tight end at best, and that might be generous. If you saw his preseason game last week, you saw what is arguably the worst block by a tight end in the history of the game of football. He tried to put his shoulder into a guy, got his head out of the way, but put his head down in the process. Didn't look at his target. He rolled onto the ground ended up rolling up and into his teammate and gave his teammate a better block than he did the defender.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
Now, in his defense, he did manage to actually get the defender out of the play.
Yes.
So kudos on that. But it was terrible. He managed to get open on one route where the ball was thrown to him, only for his teammate to steal his glory.
Yes.
And then for all of that effort, he got cut. So this week's Drizzler is one Timothy Tebow.
Well, I would disagree with that because this week's Drizzler Award obviously goes to, without question, the referee in the Indy game.
Oh, you mean the NFL?
I mean, this whole NFL situation, period, with this taunting rule,
Yes.
is straight trash.
For those of you who didn't see it, running back, I can't think of his first name. His last name is LeMay.
That's
for
right.
the Colts. Late in the fourth quarter, or maybe in the middle of the fourth quarter, he breaks off what should have been a short run. He should have been tackled down maybe 3 or 4 yards after his carry.
Drug both teams with him.
Yeah, but
I mean, let's
he
just
drug everybody on the field for about 10 to 15 yards
That's
before
right.
he finally went down.
Beautiful run.
Got up and was super excited.
Did a mini flex. Wasn't even that egregious. I mean, he just cop up and just did a quick flex, a boom, and that was it. Oh, and the referee, if you go back and watch it, once he starts coming up, the referee's already getting close. He's already itching. He can tell what's coming. Was ready to throw that flag. This is what the NFL has started, and fans everywhere are just hammering the NFL with this. And so, matter of fact, we got a twofer when it comes to the Drizzler Award on my end this week, because the other part of that is John Mara. John Mara, New York Giants owner, he's on the competition committee too, right? So he came out and said, "Hey, you know what? We're just sick of them talking to each other, talking bad about each other, and the taunting. It just sickens everybody." I'm like, dude, who is everybody? Who is this everybody you speak of? Because I can tell you, as football fans, we're not tired of it.
No,
it's BS.
It's part of the game. And, as a Longhorns fan, I've witnessed taunting my entire life.
Yeah.
Every team that ever plays the Texas Longhorns, they all do the horns down.
Yeah.
If you watch Deshaun Jackson or Tyreek Hill play against anyone, they're always taunting them. I remember Deshaun Jackson, broke wide open. I don't remember if it was a passing play or a punt return. But against the Cowboys, and he got to the end zone, and he had such a huge lead on everyone because he left all the defenders in the dust.
Yep.
That he stopped, turned around, pivoted onto his heel, and then just slowly fell back into the end zone to score the touchdown.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Tyreek Hill runs by all the defenders or away from all the defenders, and he flashes up the deuces.
Yep.
It's part of the game. You get to play, you get to celebrate.
Look, if you spike a ball on somebody, okay. If you're yelling in their face just obscenities, okay. I can see that. That's egregious. I get that part of it. But just because you made a stellar play, you're flexing, and you just make a quick – dude, that's trash if you're calling that.
Yeah.
The NFL, this is the dumbest thing they've done in quite some time, and that's saying a lot when it comes to the NFL. All
Yeah,
right, JC.
it's a real nitpicky thing.
It's awful. It's just trash. All right, it's Big Kahuna Award time. What you got?
Man, my big kahuna this week goes to one Quinn Ewers, quarterback of Ohio State University. Quinn Ewers is finally on campus. He's got his number. He's got his helmet. He's out there practicing with the team. And he's got a big, fat paycheck to go along with it. He signed a huge NIL deal. Even left high school. I say left early. He's already 18, so I guess it got held back a year or something. Great at football, maybe not great in the classroom. But Quinn Ewers, the number one prospect in this year's recruiting cycle, now at Ohio State, ready to try to make that challenge for either the Buckeyes' starting quarterback job this year or taking that redshirt year, and will be leading that team next season.
Yeah. I guess. I can't wait to see what he does, though. I can't wait to see when he gets out there and see if he's really got it.
He's got one hell of a mullet. I'll give him that.
Oh my jeez, dude!
It is the nastiest, most. It's not even business in the front and party in the back. It's just kind of like ratty and party all the time.
That deserves its own drizzler right in and of
If
itself.
I think of like a weird backwoods Texas mullet, that is the one.
Yeah. Yeah. And my big Kahuna award goes to Andy Dalton. And I'll tell you why. Not because he did anything great. It's just about because of what he said during his press conference, right? Like, we get that Justin Fields is going to be the next big thing there for Chicago. They're going to do all this, and he's been lighting it up.
He's going to be the next big thing he will be the big thing by the end of this season.
No doubt. But Andy Dalton come out saying it right now that he's the guy. It's his team, all this stuff.
Okay, Andy.
That was great.
I'm
like, dude.
That's cute.
You can believe that, and you may be the only one that does, but it takes balls to steel, my friend, to come out and say something like that when you got this young cat out there eating it up, and then you've been on this is your third different team.
In 3 years.
Yeah, so let's go. Let's see what happens there. But there you go. Pretty interesting.
That is a interesting take, Andy Dalton. I mean, I know you have to have that confidence, but
right now,
I don't know if Andy
time.
Dalton watched the same game that we saw this past weekend.
Dude, I don't know.
Justin Fields tore it up.
He did.
He made some dudes look foolish.
So, again, it's preseason. We got it. All right, different guys about there playing. People still learning the position. It's going to take 2 or 3 weeks during the regular season for these teams to fully start gelling.
Right.
And becoming what they're going to be.
About week 4 is where you kind of know what most teams are going
That's right.
to be.
Then you start seeing them really come together because they're playing, they're getting all that time, game experience, you see it. So when we revisit this about week 4, we'll see. But I think but from what you see, just an eyeball test of how he moves, what he sees downfield, Justin Fields is going to be the quarterback before the end of the season.
Justin Fields
Maybe
is the starter.
Point,
I think Justin Fields is the starter no later than week 7.
I can agree with that. I wouldn't doubt that either. You're seeing it. It's coming. It's coming.
I mean, kid is he's got the juice,
Yep.
like
Nasty.
But I think we saw that with all the first-round quarterbacks this week. They all looked good.
They did.
Every one of them.
They were all lighting it up. Which, again, that's fine and good, but I want to see you in a regular season game
Now,
with all the talent on the field, on both sides of the ball. Let's see what happens.
I am going to stand by what I said during our draft show, though.
What's that?
And there is no way that anyone can convince me that Justin Fields was the 4th best quarterback in this class. No.
I agree.
Like
Chicago got it.
Y'all
did good there, letting everybody else think that he was.
They want to make the argument that that Trevor Lawrence is the number 1 quarterback in this draft, I'll listen.
Sure.
If you want to tell me that Trevor Lawrence is 1A, Justin Fields is 1B, cool.
Sure.
But Zach Wilson and Trey Lance are not better quarterbacks than Justin Fields.
No.
That dude just has it. And the fact, as a Cowboys fan, I selfishly love this next point. The fact that both the Giants and the Eagles had Justin Fields in their grasp
and passed
and
it
just
up.
chose to have Daniel Jones and Jalen Hurts instead.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I heard an Eagles fan the other day talking about that. Jalen Hurts is the guy, though. He's going to be ruling the NFC. I'm like, what? Wait, what? What?
He might be good one day, but that day ain't today.
No.
Justin Fields will be a lot better, a lot faster.
That's right. Yeah, a lot more complete. And I like Jalen Hurts. But no. That's funny. That's hilarious to me. But, that's why it's the fandom. That's why we watch the games. That's why we talk about the games, because you got all these different viewpoints, and some of them are just absurd. That, to me, was absurd. But it's been an interesting week as we draw closer and closer to the start of the season. It's coming, folks.
I want to say
get ready.
We'll have college football in less than 10 days.
That's right.
So keep that in mind.
It's coming, folks. I can't wait. I'm excited. High school football starts this weekend on Undefined Radio. Follow Undefined Blitz on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram, on the Twitters.
Yeah, on both of those, it's at @undefined_blitz.
Yep, check us out on YouTube at Undefined Blitz. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can watch the video instead of just listening on our podcast. But we appreciate everybody tuning in, and we will see you guys again next week.